The Iowa Hawkeye women bouncing some life back into, or say jolting some life back into the Hawkeye fan base with a 95-43 domination of Southeastern Louisiana. The Hawkeyes, the 2 seed in this matchup, and I think most of us expected a pretty dominant win, but boy, you never know in this tournament. As you can see on the screen, this is the largest margin of victory so far for any team in the NCAA tournament. That, of course, includes the men, and traditionally you have more blowouts on the women's side. There's not as much parity in the women's game. But boy, good to see Iowa dominate a team like Southeastern Louisiana. It was completely overmatched. First half, I thought the Lions stuck with it. I mean, they went through a stretch there in the second half where they were actually getting some stops. But for the most part today, Iowa scored at will. And this is what Iowa should do with that offense, what they should do against any team from the group of 5, or I should say the mid-major level. And even though this is a conference tournament champion, just 43 points, going on the road and just scoring 43 points. That's a good sign. But again, am I reading too much into this? Absolutely not. Certainly, there's a lot of really good teams in this tournament. I watched South Carolina prior to the Iowa game, and I continue to be impressed with their balance, even though they've got one of the best players in the country in Aaliyah Boston. They're just really good everywhere. A lot of really good athletes. They're long. They get up in the fast break. Obviously, they're right now projected to be the best team in the country. But Iowa can go a long ways when they're clicking on the cylinders they're clicking on right now. And they scored 95 tonight. In spite of just 3 points for Gabby Marshall, she was 1 of 4 from 3. Let's remember she had been on fire from behind the arc. Gabby Marshall, again, 1 of 4 from 3, 1 of 5 from the field overall, 3 points. Kate Martin gives you just 1 3, had 5 points on the day. McKenna Warnock just 1 3, 6 points on the day, and yet Iowa wins by 52. Impressive, folks. Impressive. And good to see a nice big crowd there, even on a Friday afternoon, sold out arena. And it basically looked full. No surprise there. Good to see the Hawkeye fans showing out. Hannah Stolke with a nice game. Boy, 13 points, 5 boards, perfect from the field, 5 of 5. She continues to impress. Monica Sonano, 22 points, 8 boards. She dominated from the court, 10 of 12 from the field. And Caitlin Clark did what she did, and she could have scored a lot more. 26 points, 12 assists, 7 boards. She could have easily had a 30-point triple-double tonight. 3 of 6 from 3, 9 of 14 overall from the field. We even saw a little bit of time for Jada Giamfi. Shateo Wettering, I believe Ediger played. I believe Sharon Goodman played. She registered 2 points on one attempt. Taylor McCabe played. Molly Davis gave him 6 points, 2 assists. Sharon Goodman played. Sydney Falter played. She gave him 3 boards and 4 assists. She's not going to give you much offensively, but she's someone that obviously Lisa Bluter trusts right now. It's just good to get these girls out, right, as early as you can. You win them by 30, 40, or 50, whatever the case may be. Get them rested, get them fresh for Sunday. And, boy, they should be fresh for the game against Georgia on Sunday. And, of course, if you missed that game earlier, and I didn't watch the game from start to finish, but Georgia with a nice win against a higher seed in Florida State. Florida State, the 7 seed, Georgia, the 10. And Florida State jumped out early on the Bulldogs, but a nice response in that second quarter by Georgia. And for the most part, they controlled the game, led most of the second half, but it was obviously a lot closer than this game. Regardless, you have a day of rest. Both these teams have a day of rest, and they'll get back in Carver on Sunday, and it should be rocking. It's an ABC game for the Hawkeyes and the Bulldogs. Hawkeyes trying to exact some sort of revenge, even though they didn't lose to Georgia last year. They did lose to a 10 seed, if I'm not mistaken. Creighton was the 10 last year. And the Hawkeyes on a Sunday afternoon, I believe that game was on ABC as well. Iowa falling to Creighton, who eventually upset Iowa State and then fell to, was it South Carolina? They lost to somebody after that. I think it might have been South Carolina in that draw. I'd have to look back. But regardless, good win for the Hawkeye women to be expected. And we're here to talk about it for the next 30 to 60 minutes, whatever the case may be here, folks. I know it's still early. People are probably getting off work as we about 5:19 p.m. on a Friday. So I understand a lot of people are working. Appreciate the 35 people who are watching right now, and we want to get more people on here. So be sure to, first of all, before we get into our first caller, be sure to hit that like button. It does help the show, helps us to grow, helps us in the algorithm, helps this video appear on other people's YouTube feeds, and of course, subscribe if you haven't done so. One other thing that we don't want to forget about, please share the show out on social media. It's very easy to do that. YouTube makes it super simple to hit that little share button, and you can share it to whatever social media you are active on. That helps as well. Or maybe just text message, send it to your friends, your Hawkeye friends who enjoyed the game and want to enjoy some post-game coverage today. I want to take a moment before we get to our first caller to thank Iowa Smokehouse and their great snacks, folks. If you need great snacking, and who doesn't, this is a dangerous time of year in a good way. March Madness here and some great sporting events on both the men's and the women's side. Visit iowasmokehouse.com for a higher quality snack for game day or whatever you need it for, whether it's their thick and tender cuts of beef jerky, their flavorful meat sticks, or their delicious steak bites. Tasting is believing. Always. Tasting is believing with Iowa Smokehouse. Visit iowasmokehouse.com and use the code Hawkeye for 15% off your order. Again, that's the code Hawkeye at iowasmokehouse.com. And if you place an order of $50 or more, you'll get free shipping. I would advise you to do just that because you're getting the most bang for your buck. You don't got to go anywhere. It'll be delivered to your front door, and it is great stuff. Again, iowasmokehouse.com, and they are an Iowa company, as the name would indicate. They're actually right down in Albia, Iowa. So again, iowasmokehouse.com. We appreciate them sponsoring our postseason content here From the Hawkeye of the Storm. Again, we're recapping Iowa's 95-43 defeat of Southeastern Louisiana. Let's go to our first caller of the day. I believe we've got James on the line. James, welcome to the show.
How you doing?
Good. How are you, sir?
Doing better today. I did miss some of the game because I was watching Iowa State brick every single shot they threw up. But
hey, listen, this is a women's show. And people know I'm an Ames guy, and I don't, Part of me has a soft spot for Iowa State, but part of me really dislikes Iowa State, and I have to admit I took some joy watching Iowa State get blown out by an 11.
I have to poke fun at them because they talk a lot of crap when we miss a lot of shots. So you have to poke fun at them when they miss a lot of shots. So.
They scored 41 points against a bad Pitt team. That is not a good Pittsburgh team.
For sure. I just had to poke fun at them because, they poke fun at us. But anyways, it's good to see it. Like you said, all the girls get in, especially early enough to where, like,
22, by the way, one more comment on Iowa State, the men shot 22% from the field, 9.5% from three. Could always be worse. Iowa's had some bad nights, but I don't think they've never had a day like that. I don't think.
That might be the worst in tournament history.
That's really, really bad. And they shot 57.9% from the free throw line. Incredible.
But no, I was going to say I agree with you on the fact that it's good to get everybody in early enough so, we get a little bit of rest. They play pretty much 3 quarters, and some of them didn't even play 3 quarters, because they were out and not in a lot of times. So they really play like 2.5 quarters, when Georgia had to fight the whole 4. Yeah. So that might get them a little bit and get you a little bit fresher.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't. Again, I know that Gabby Marshall has been a bit up and down, but she has been pretty consistent over the past month, and obviously has been really good during tournament play. Going back to the Big Ten tournament last week, I doubt she responds on Sunday with another 1 of 4 outing from 3. So they're probably going to get a better night from her. And like I say, to score 95 without much of any production from anybody besides Clark, obviously Sonato and a little bit from Stolke. That's impressive.
I was gonna say maybe she thought she played for the Iowa State men today. Maybe that's why she shot like that. But no. I feel like Molly played well too. We kind of haven't know what Molly's gonna do for you. And that girl Bell, she kept trying to hurt all of our players every time. I swear to gosh, they got smoked by her every time. She is kind of bigger, so you get hit, you do go flying a little bit. But
well, if it's any consolation, Taylor Bell ended up on the night. She ended up 3 of 13 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3. Had just 1 rebound, 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 block, 3 turnovers, and got tossed with 4 personal fouls, and 2 of which were intentional flagrant fouls. So it just seems like, and I'm not saying there's some conspiracy theory about this, but doesn't it seem to you, James, that this Iowa women's basketball team tends to run into women who like to rough them up?
Because they're jealous that we get all the spotlight. I feel like not jealous, but they just get frustrated because we got all the spotlight. You see what their coach was saying though? Southeast Louisiana coach?
No, I didn't.
They were like talking on the news, right? They had this news thing in Southeast Louisiana, whatever they're at Hammond, Louisiana, whatever. She said, "Oh, it's all right because I got somebody who's going to guard Kaylin Clark or whatever." And then Kaylin Clark had like 28 points. So I just find it funny how they were talking all that crap, and then their 15 seed and came in and got beat by 50. So
got beat by 50. So 52 actually, James. So you're right about that, but I do think that point I do think Caitlin Clark's the chips that she carries on her shoulder and her edge and her attitude, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
I've talked about it. I think at times maybe she goes a little bit overboard, but that's who she is. And I think it does her more good than harm. I think that there's no question that's going to get under the skin of opponents. And she does demand a lot of the spotlight, and rightfully so. I think that's part of it, James, but I also think part of it is teams have to slow Iowa down. You've got to do something out of the ordinary. And I'm not saying that this is a bounty situation where coaches are saying, hey, injure their girls, but you've got to beat up Iowa physically. I think if you're going to beat this Iowa team and hold them under, 75, 80, you're going to have to rough them up a bit. Now, it didn't work today. Iowa puts up 95, but James, you've seen even in recent seasons that Iowa tends to struggle more with physicality when they get punished on the glass. And so I still think if anything's their downfall this month, it will be from a physical perspective, from a defensive perspective, and from a rebounding perspective. Southeast Louisiana just doesn't have the horses. And shame on the coach if she implied. I mean, obviously you want to inspire trust in your players, but I didn't hear that quote earlier.
Not really stop it. They said the girl that was going to guard her was going to slow her down. Like she wasn't going to, and not hurt her, but slow her down. I'm like, you're supposed to have that confidence. I get that. I understand her confidence, and I agree with that, but they were just kind of talking like...
Well, there's probably no reason to state that publicly, right?
Yeah.
Because you probably don't want to light a fire under the best player in the country. Like, there are certain things you probably just don't want to do, and you don't want to let that animal out of the cage.
For sure. It wasn't like, I'm going to stop her, hurt her. It was more like, we're going to stop her, from... But Yeah, and I did see in the comments somebody to say too. Molly did take a pretty good shot from that Bell girl too. I thought she was
She
gonna
did.
be down for a while. She took a shot, and right when she got hit, I was kind of like, it was like she didn't go for the ball, so I was confused. But I feel like in general they react to. I'm not just saying a men's show thing, but I feel like they react to toughness better than the men do for sure. Though, like Caitlin will get roughed up a little. She get in her head a little bit, but today she didn't as much. Sometimes we get roughed up a little bit. She'll get in her head, and then she'll start trying to force stuff, but she definitely didn't today, and I think that's a good sign. But Georgia's the SEC, so they're going to be a little faster, a little quicker, probably a little bigger. So
More athletic.
yeah, everything's going to be just different. But I think they can take care of business. It all just depends the way. I think we're going to need more from obviously the other three as well. You ain't going to win games just like that.
Yeah, and like I said, theoretically, you get a bad shooting night out of your system for some of the girls, and it's crazy. I know I've said this like 3 times now, but in spite of those shooting struggles from those 3 starters, the team shot 60%. They shot 60% from the field, 40% from 3, and 83% from the free throw line. Out rebounded Southeastern Louisiana by 14. Over doubled them up in assists, 5 blocks to 1. Did turn the ball over a few too many times, 16 total turnovers. Some of those occurred with some of the reserves, but yeah, I don't. You can't complain about anything. This is just one of those games where you want to get out of Dodge. As you said earlier, get your starters out as soon as possible. You got a quick turnover in tournament play. You did what you needed to do, but we also can't read too far into what actually happened, besides the fact that, yes, they dominated, they did what they needed to do, and now we move on.
With all that being said, though, with all this physical nuts too, it's also good to get out of a game like this, only play many amount of quarters, whatever, and then not have any injuries too. That's always a big thing, especially when it gets to this time. You don't want any injuries to happen, and we're not as deep, as some teams, so injuries would hurt us more than I feel like some other teams would. So it's always good to stay healthy, and it'll be interesting to see. I just hope they can react because Gabby doesn't shoot 1 for 4 a lot of times. She shot a lot better lately, so.
Yeah.
But we'll see, and go Drake. I guess we got to root for one Iowa team to get through.
So we're talking have the Drake women played yet?
No, the Drake men. I'm saying go Drake men because we gotta have one men's team go to this round of 32.
Well, did the women lose or they play tomorrow?
I don't know. I think.
Are you still with us? What happened? The Drake women play Louisville tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. on Central Time on ESPN2, and the Iowa State women play tomorrow, Toledo, 2:30 p.m. Central Time, ESPN2. So yeah, I don't care about Iowa State, but yeah, I'm rooting for Drake today. I think they'll beat Miami. How's your bracket doing, James?
Not good. I have a lot of Iowa
men's
bias.
Bracket's not doing. My men's bracket's doing pretty good right now.
I have a lot of Iowa bias though. So like I had West Virginia winning because Joe T was there, and I have UCLA winning because Tiger Campbell's from Cedar Rapids. So I got a lot of Iowa bias just because I'm from the state and I like to see people from the state, succeed or play in the state succeed. So for me, it's not doing very well. I don't know. I definitely didn't pick some games I didn't pick, but I had Iowa State losing, so that's all that mattered.
No, I predicted a UC Santa Barbara upset, which I was wrong about, but I was right about Penn State. I'm looking actually. I know a lot of people. I
predicted Charleston upset, and that didn't work out to my favor. So
yeah, I'm ahead right now, according to ESPN. Does this mean I'm ahead of 96%? So I'm right now I'm tied for 4th in our group. Congratulations to Danny Wemmett, Hawkeye 2M, and George Leo, because those guys right now are kicking butt. They're at 190 points in our Iowa Smokehouse Bracket Challenge, and I'm right behind those people with 180 points. But yeah, so far so good. And let's be honest, as it relates to the men, the Big Ten's taking care of business, minus Iowa. Now,
and Illinois.
The women's game, the women's game, well, in Illinois too. The women's game, Illinois women lost in the first 4. Purdue women lost in the first 4. Michigan did win today, which is good for the conference. And Iowa, of course, won, as did Maryland. And then, of course, we're going to see tomorrow, we'll have Indiana will play Tennessee Tech. Ohio State will play James Madison. Let's see. Am I missing a couple here? I believe. Is that all? Is that all the Big Ten teams in?
Yeah.
I think that's correct, with Purdue and Illinois losing. So both the men and the women need a good showing in this tournament for their conferences. And, we'll see what happens. But I so far so good on both notes.
I feel like, what do you feel like is the key? Obviously, you haven't watched Georgia. I haven't watched Georgia. I watched a little bit of the game. I tuned in for a little bit to watch Florida State and Georgia, but I didn't watch a lot of it because I was watching most of March Madness on the boys' side. But what do you think is the key? Like, to me, I think it's the other three. Because you know what Caitlin Clark can get you. You know what Monica's going to kind of get you. You know what I mean? I think it's the other three. Like
Well,
Kate, McKenna, and
against the better teams, I believe. I think you're right. Against the better teams, they
yeah.
can beat, as they demonstrated tonight, James. They can beat teams that are just undermatched or overmatched, I should say. They can beat those teams with just Clark and Sonano, right? With just
Yeah.
what you're going to get from them every night. However, I think you're right. I think to beat the best teams in the country, and I don't know that Georgia falls under that umbrella. I could see Iowa beating Georgia with off performances from,
You need at least one of them, I feel like, though. You can't have all three of them lay duds. I
maybe.
think you need at least one of them.
I think that's probably true. But I just think there's so much firepower between what Clark and Sonano give you, and the points that we're scoring. It's amazing. Like I am really impressed. Here's one thing I don't talk about as much as I should, but Caitlin Clark's vision is just second to none. And Molly Davis is a good pass post feeder as well. She's got some good passing ability. So they just share the ball really well. And as I said, dominated today in the category of assists. Let me find the final tally for these teams. Iowa beating Southeastern Louisiana in the assist category, 27-13. They're just tough to defend when not only can a lot of people score, they got multiple people on the team who are really good passers. Hannah Stolke's a really good passer for being a true freshman and being a post. She's a good passer. So, again, I still think defensively and physically they could run into some problems, but it may not be provided by anybody anytime soon.
So ESPN just brought this stat up. They just said that Caitlin Clark's the first player since 2000 to have 25 points, 10 assists, and or was it 10 rebounds? Hold up, the 10 assists and 50% field goal since 2000. I shoot 50% from the field.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I agree with you, and we'll see. Hopefully, we don't lay an egg, and that's the only scary thing. Because last year against Creighton, and it was at home, so we can't say nothing else, So
it's all about matchups, and I haven't studied Georgia enough to know much about them besides a little bit that I saw them today. I will say I do think in this case, I think Iowa's loss to Creighton a year ago serves them well. Like, I don't think that's going to be in the back of their mind and make them play worse. I think if anything, it's going to give them motivation to just run them out of the building. Now, they may not. Georgia may come in and play them tough. But from what I saw, I wasn't overly. Were you overly? Well, you didn't even watch it.
I watched a little bit of it. I wasn't overly surprised with them, to be
Were
honest
you
with you.
overly impressed with Georgia, though? I wasn't.
No, I thought Florida State was a better team. I mean, Georgia won, but I thought Florida State was like the more scarier team, if that makes sense. Like, if that's who we would have played, I thought they would have been the more scarier team. And it doesn't mean that a more scary team's always going to win, obviously. But like for us, at least, I thought Florida State was like the more scarier team.
They're the higher seed. Diamond Battles. She's good. They're going to have to defend her, and I think the one thing about her is, from what I saw, she can penetrate. And Iowa's sometimes had issues. I know people just praise Gabby Marshall to the end of the earth about defense, but that's going to be a test. We'll see who guards Diamond Battles, because she can break you down. What'd she give you tonight? She gave Georgia played 36 minutes, 7 of 16 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3, 4 boards, 2 assists, 21 points. She's good.
Also, don't forget you got a Fulter who can come in too, and I feel like give you a little bit of minutes as defense, because I feel like she's top 3 best defender on the team. So she can kind of get you, and she get into somebody too. She's not afraid to, because she knows she's not going to score, so she's not afraid to get into somebody. And
she better be giving you minutes on defense. But like I said, Battles is quick and is a scorer, so that will be a good challenge for them. And again, you learned from last year, and I would expect Iowa to bring their A game on Sunday.
For sure. One more thing, seeing Hannah play like that's always good, because you definitely need her more next year too. But the more confidence she builds, the better, and she can give you, if she plays like that, I'm not even saying 13 points, like 8, 10 points, and do what she needs to do. She can give Monica a little bit more rest, and that might be what you need down those stretch too when you get down the stretch.
I agree. Yep, I agree. And the more minutes that you can get for Addison O'Grady, and I know we're not going to see a ton of minutes for Edgar or Goodman, but the more minutes you can get for O'Grady, the better, because the way they play, they need somebody that can. I mean, I know Stolke can give them some minutes at the 5. I still think she's more of a 4. But these are the final few games of the Sonano era, whether they, win on Sunday or not. So the more minutes, the more postseason minutes you can get for those younger post players, the better. And, you might need. I mean, once we get into a more physical brand of basketball, if they run into a South Carolina or a Maryland, or they may need to turn to O'Grady for meaningful minutes in big situations. So it was good to see her out there today.
For sure, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. Enjoy your night and enjoy more basketball, and hopefully Drake man can at least pull something off for the state. So
sounds good, sir. Appreciate you calling, James.
You too.
Appreciate Casey reminding everybody, please smash that like button or press it gently, whatever you prefer, right here on YouTube. And, of course, all of our shows, a reminder, all of our shows, our longer shows, post-game shows, podcasts, Hawkeye Hangout episodes, they're all podcasted on Spotify, Anchor, Apple, Google, etc. So be sure to check out our podcasted platforms. And, of course, if you miss a live show, just go back and listen to it on audio. You don't got to listen to it. I mean, I prefer you listen to it through YouTube, but, you don't have to. I know how easy it is when you're working out or you're busy with other stuff. Just put on a podcast. So put on our podcast. I'd like to think that it's not too bad at times. Yes, Louis reminds us all, Sunday 2 p.m. for the Iowa-Georgia game on ABC, the 2-10 matchup. And just in case you're just now getting here, the Hawkeyes defeating the Southeastern Louisiana Lions 95-43, which is the largest margin of victory so far in this tournament. No other team has won by 35 or more, or certainly by 40 or more, or by 50 or more. Impressive nonetheless, regardless of seeding. And just to give everybody an update on the bracket, again, Georgia defeating Florida State earlier today, the 10 over the 7 in Iowa City. This, of course, is the section of the draw, the Seattle 4 section, the regional. But this section of the Seattle 4 region is playing in Iowa City for the first two rounds. So Iowa will play the 10 seed Georgia on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time. And as far as other results in this part of the draw, I'm looking to see. So we've got Iowa. I don't believe we've had any other games yet in this region. So we're going to have to wait to see what happens with Duke, Louisville. James mentioned Drake. They play Louisville. And, of course, Stanford, the 1 seed at the top of the draw. Texas also in there, a 4 seed taking on East Carolina. So, hey, as disappointing as the day was yesterday for the Iowa men, couldn't have went better today. Let's go to our next caller. Mr. Drill MVP is with us.
Hey, Corey, how you doing?
Appreciate you calling our Iowa Smokehouse calling line, Drill MVP. I'm doing great.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, was this really a shock at all to anybody? I mean,
no, but I mean, this you don't. The last thing you want in a situation like this is to feel shocked after, because that's probably an indication that you lost or didn't play very well.
Right. I mean, I heard that Sela was pretty undersized.
Who?
Sela. That's why I'm Southeast Louisiana.
Yeah, they were.
So, and with somebody like Iowa Center, I mean, she just went off today. Caitlin Clark went off today. I mean, this was just a game where they were clicking on all cylinders. And
there's not a lot of teams. You know this, Drill MVP, because you follow the sport. There aren't a ton of women's basketball teams out there that have true post players, like true centers. And, Sonano is a true big. And so, yeah, teams like this, it's just, you're such a handful because you're scheming to stop Clark, but you're right about Sonano. She's rock solid down low, and you're just, you're trying to double down on her. You're leaving somebody open. And unfortunately for Southeastern Louisiana, it was Clark at times. Fortunately for them, some girls missed open shots, but they still got beat by 52.
Right. Well, that's kind of funny. You framed it that way. It's true, but it's funny.
Yeah. Well, you heard what I said. I mean, the scores, the box score, maybe I'm reading too far into this. I probably am, because it's a 52-point victory. What else do we have to talk about, Drill MVP? But like, what else do you have to say other than your other starters, the starters not named Sonano and Clark? You want to know what their final field goal numbers were?
You can run them down.
They were 4 of 13. Besides Sonano and Clark, their other 3 starters made just 4 field goals and accounted for just 14 points. But when Sonano gives you 22, when Clark gives you 26, when Stolke comes off the bench, gives you 13 and 5, O'Grady adds in 6, Molly Davis gets 6, and then you get a couple of, You get 3 points out of Taylor McCabe. You get 3 points out of Wettering. Sharon Goodman with 2 points. Now, a lot of those points were in garbage time, but I mean, the reason they were playing is because Iowa had taken care of business with their rotational players. So that is impressive, regardless of opponent. This is a Southeast Louisiana team. It's, Durham MVP, with the men or the women. If you get in, you're hot. Like, you just won your tournament. This is not a slumping Southeast Louisiana team. Now, it's not a very good conference, hence why they're a 15 seed, and they did need overtime to beat Texas A&M Community College or whatever they were. Who is that? They beat who did they beat in the semifinals of the Southland? I don't even know who this school is. Who's in the Southland Conference that I'm missing, Durham MVP?
I do not watch Southland basketball.
You don't?
I'm sorry.
Why?
Because it's the same reason I don't watch Horizon basketball or American East basketball.
Let me just look here. I'm just curious. I don't even recognize. Oh, it's Texas A&M Commerce.
I've never heard of them.
Did you know? I didn't listen. I haven't heard of them either. Did you know they're in the South? Did you know they're Division I?
No, I didn't even know. I thought it was when you say like Texas A&M. I thought you were going to say Texas A&M Corpus Christi.
No, Texas A&M Commerce.
Cool.
I've never heard of them, but Southeast Louisiana, that's my point. Southeastern Louisiana beat everybody that they needed to beat, including Texas A&M Corpus Christi at the end of the season, first game of March. Beat Northwestern State by double figures, and then 3-point win over Incarnate Word, 2-point overtime win over Texas A&M Commerce. And who did they beat? Who did they beat in the championship game? I'll have to figure this out here as you go ahead, Drill MVP, if you had something else.
Well, I'm not sure if you've watched any of the other games today, but a lot of teams have taken care of business as the lower seed, or the team that the favorite seed. I guess I'll say
Except
it that
Georgia.
way.
Except Georgia,
and Florida State, and it looks like Mississippi State's probably going to beat Creighton. They're up 37-23 halfway through the second quarter, but I'm not sure if you heard, but Florida State had one of their key players not be able to be in this tournament. I think that played a large factor in the game, so we couldn't really – it wasn't Florida State was at their best.
Yeah, I did see something. I don't remember the gal's name, but and like I said, I was impressed with what's her face, the little guard that scored 21.
Diamond.
That's her first name. I can't remember her last name. But yeah, she's good. And
their defense has been incredible. I'm not sure if you saw the stats, but they're a very defensive-oriented team. I think that could give Iowa fits in the first half, maybe, but I think I'm expecting Iowa to kind of pull away late for their game against Georgia. And, this ain't even going to be the best team that Georgia's played all year because they've had to play South Carolina. So they're going to be used to the physicality, the strength, and the athleticism that Iowa's going to bring to the table. So this can't be a game Iowa overlooks. They're going to have to be at their best.
By the way, Southeastern Louisiana beat Lamar in the Southland Conference Championship game by 9. But they have trouble scoring. I mean, they are not very good offensively. So as impressive as the 52-point margin of victory is, again, you can't read into it a lot because this was a bad matchup for Southeastern Louisiana. I'll read you recent scores for them. Your MVP: 65, 66, 54, 67, 66, 60, 66. They haven't scored 70 since February 11th. Now, Iowa held them to 40, whatever it was, 42. 42. But I'm just saying, this is a offensively challenged team. Now, Georgia is a little bit offensively challenged minus their star guard. And they're a little bit more balanced than they were today in their game against Florida State. I can pull up the stats here. But my point is, this margin of defeat should not be, blown out of proportion. That's all I'm saying.
Right, but the only thing that I would be worried about if I was an Iowa women's game is there going to be a confidence boost where they kind of get too big for themselves. For their next game, they think they can just steamwalk their way into the Elite Eight.
Well, again, Iowa lost to Creighton last year in this exact position.
I think that's going to help them. I think that kind of played a part last year where they thought they would just saw their path forward, didn't think anything of the challengers before them like Creighton. and then Creighton snuck on them, took them by surprise. Then they didn't know how to respond in that adversity. So I think that's going to be the difference. But this Georgia team, I mean, they get steals at a good rate. Their defense is their offense in a lot of situations. They're a very tenactic team, very opportunistic. So Iowa's got to be able to take care of the basketball.
By the way, about Georgia, Brittany Smith averages 12 a game with 5 boards, held the 2 points, 3 boards in 11 minutes tonight. Again, this morning, I didn't watch all that game, so I don't know if she was banged up or what happened. But those are the only 2 players Georgia has in double figures. And like I say, Diamond Battles averages 14, 3, and 3. She's good, and 2 steals a game as well. So they'll pick your pocket. They force turnovers well, and they can probably break Iowa off the dribble a little bit better than Southeastern Louisiana. Javen Nicholson, they're big inside. She's going to have obviously a heavy assignment against Sonano. She averages 7 boards a game, and I mean, they don't really have a lot of size. I mean, they have size, 6'2", 6'1". I mean, they got some decent frontline length, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to defend Iowa's bigs because it's just not a traditional thing anymore in this game.
Right. I expect Sonano to have a big game against Georgia. I want a 15-10 type game from her. That's what I want from her against Georgia. I think that's reasonable.
If she plays 35 minutes, yeah. I mean, how many minutes did she play today? I don't have the final numbers, but she went 22 and 8. If she plays 35 minutes today, she probably goes 30 and 12. So
that was going to be the final thing I asked you about, because there's not a whole lot to analyze from this giant, enormous victory. Is what you think about having them play a large amount of minutes? Because it was pretty obvious that this game wasn't going to be much of a competition after halftime. Do you think they should have rested the players more, or do you like the fact to kind of since they're in rhythm, keep them in rhythm?
Well, I mean, let's not act like. I mean, what I'm trying to find the final minutes tallies here. Here are the final stats, in case you were wondering. So, I mean, Clark played 29 minutes, and that was by far the most. I mean, there are other starters. Warnock played just 23 minutes, Sonano 23, Martin 22, Marshall 23. That's a lot of minutes to you. I mean, that's pretty light for the tournament, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but Iowa had such a big lead that they could have even cut those minutes. I mean, Clark, she had 29 minutes. I mean, I saw her in the game. It was 72-38 in the third quarter, and I was just like, why is she in the game? She had like 22 points.
Well, I was going to say, I think there is something to be said for this, and I don't know if this would be Lisa Bluter's response. You don't want to pull your starters too early in a game like this, because let's not forget the Big Ten tournament was played, 2 weeks ago? They haven't been playing, so you want them to make sure to beat off any rust that could be lingering from their off week and a half, and I think that you have to balance that, Drill MVP. I mean, if you're up 30 in the first quarter, you're not going to pull your gals for 3 quarters. I don't think that's reasonable. So I don't have any problem with the minute distribution.
Okay, I think that's a fair response, Corey. But good win for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Hopefully they continue their role against Georgia.
And Drill MVP, I know you follow the men's game. Danimal, appreciate the super chat from Danimal. I know this is an Iowa show, but did Corey watch the men's ISU game? Big yikes. Did you watch it, Drill MVP?
Yeah, I'm glad I had Pittsburgh winning today.
I had them winning too. Good for you.
Yeah, there's usually a first 4 team that makes a Sweet 16 run, and I thought Pittsburgh would be that team this year. So
I don't think Pitt's very good.
Well, they got to play Xavier, and they should have lost to Kennesaw State. I'm not sure if you saw that game.
I saw the block by former Hawkeye Jack Nungy to save that game, but
Kennesaw State led for, I would say, 30 minutes of the game.
Yeah, good comeback for Kansas. I expect Xavier to play better, but it's a fascinating part of the draw, no question.
Yeah, I mean, today I've got every game right on the men's side. Unfortunately, yesterday I almost got every game wrong. So
really,
yeah.
Did you enter our Iowa Smokehouse bracket challenge, Drill MVP?
No, I didn't enter it. I couldn't find the link.
You couldn't find the link? I had it everywhere. It was everywhere.
Well, sometimes when people post a bunch of videos at one time, your stuff kind of gets underneath the
I'll
screen.
forgive you. Just make sure you buy some Iowa Smokehouse at some point, okay? I know you're not in Iowa.
Does that matter?
No, of course not.
Okay. Anyway, I will see you. When do they play next?
Sunday at 2 p.m. Central.
So I'll probably call you around 4:30, hopefully celebrating a win.
Sounds good. ABC game, sir.
Yeah, we'll watch.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right. Kelly's excited about the win. How about that? And Mary, she says, what was with the heavy fouls on Caitlin? Again, this is not the first time we've seen a team try to get physical, and I'm not saying that they're trying to hurt Caitlin Clark or, the big foul, hard foul on Molly Davis, but I do think there's something to be said about how teams have to prepare for Iowa, given how Iowa plays, their up and down style, how electric Caitlin Clark is. And I do think maybe it's possible that some opposing coaches, they transmit somewhat of a physical scouting report to Iowa. And that I understand that. Like you have to play physical. You have to make Iowa uncomfortable. Iowa's not the most athletic, not the most physical. How many times have we said that? So on that end, you better push them around a little bit, if you know what I mean. And I wonder if that's part of sometimes you see more physicality and more, I don't want to say fisticuffs because nobody's throwing fists, throwing arms, but I wonder if that's part of it, Mary. But again, Iowa's dealt with it, I think, a lot better than they ever have. This season, I think they've been tougher when those times have come. So it's been good to see Iowa deal with the physicality and make it through. Steve says CC might start for Iowa. Or who is CC? Caitlin Clark might start for Iowa. What does that mean? Am I missing something here? Hawkeye Howard, good to see you here. Hawkeye Howard, appreciate you being here. Hope you're doing well. Okay, he says CC might start for the men. Okay, I got it. The number to call in, folks, the line is open at current 515-635-1601, 515-635-1601. And I've got at least 10 more minutes here if you want to give us a call and talk about the Iowa win, or you can certainly ask a question or make a comment about the men. Or we can talk Iowa, Georgia on Sunday. Should be an exciting game down in Carver Hawkeye Arena in Iowa City. A couple comments earlier that I missed. Let me just let's see here. Yeah, Kelly just reminds us all, don't overlook anybody. And yeah, Iowa lost to a 10 seed on this. I believe it was a Sunday afternoon on ABC. Am I wrong? Now, I think this is a better team, Kelly. I've said that several times. I think it's a better team. I think they're tougher. They've got more firepower. I think Molly Davis, boy, good to see Molly play well today. And I know, you look at the stat sheet. What does she give you? She gives you total of 6 points today, but I thought she played well. She gave you a couple assists as well, 2 steals, 18 solid minutes for Molly Davis. She's efficient, 2 of 3 from the field. Not going to be launching a bunch of threes. They don't need her to, right? They've got Warnock, they've got Martin, they've got certainly Gabby Marshall, who all struggled from 3 today. But those are the girls, those are the ladies that are going to make threes on a typical night. And I don't think they need a lot of 3-point shooting from people like a Falter and Davis and Stolke. I do think that someone like Taylor McCabe, if they needed her, could come in and maybe make a couple of threes. But, 8 threes in a day like today is fine. They made you don't need them shooting a ton of threes. I don't think against Southeastern Louisiana. You'd probably prefer to see them take easy baskets. And certainly they got a lot of those today, especially out of Sonano and Clark. There were a couple times where Clark just drove uncontested to the rim, and that's okay. You'll take it. For the night, again, Iowa from 3. Let me find the final numbers here. What am I looking at that's incorrect? Am I seeing 9 of 13 correct? See, I'm looking at the official box score. And why am I seeing 8 of 20 on the... Okay, I am seeing it wrong. 3-point percentage, 8 of 20. Iowa, 40% from the field. That's solid, right? 8 threes on 20 attempts. You'll take that. And again, got to the free throw line and converted at a high rate. I'm also going to throw, for anybody who's interested, I'm going to throw the, I think I just did. I think it's in there now. Looks like it went through the link to join the show. If you'd like to call in by means of StreamYard, threw that up in the chat. Steve Cashman wants to know about CJ Frederick at Kentucky. I guess I can give you an update on Kentucky. Are they underway? A drill MVP wouldn't have called us if they were underway. Kentucky plays in about 15 minutes. So drill MVP had to wrap up that call. They'll play the 11th seed Providence on CBS at about 6:10 p.m. Central Time. CJ Frederick has had a tough season. He's dealt with more injuries. And I don't wish anything ill on him, but certainly he has not had the best of seasons. I wonder if he regrets at all leaving Iowa when he did. And certainly the way he did, I think that was the bigger issue. Let's head over to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Hey, Corey. This is Zach. How's it going, man?
I'm good, Zach. How are you, sir?
Good. Just got back from the game about 20 minutes ago.
All right. So what's your reaction?
Great crowd. There were some empty seats, but it was pretty raucous crowd. Great win. Hannah Stolke had a great game. Molly Davis had a good game. Obviously, Zanano and Clark, the law firm, was dynamic again. I watched the first game, and Georgia plays a lot of zone. So if Iowa can shoot threes Sunday, it's going to be not a game.
And my guess is they're going to play a lot of zone on Sunday because I really do think that they're content with saying, hey, we're not going to be able to stop Clark. We can limit Sinano, but we'd rather take our chances on Martin, Marshall, and Warnock having off nights. Because, again, they had off nights from the field today. And I'm not saying it's going to happen or it's going to work, but I would guess Georgia, if that's the case, again, you watched more of the game than you were at the game? You were at the Georgia game?
Yes.
Okay, so I trust you, obviously, as it relates to how much zone they played. My guess is they're going to play a lot of zone Sunday.
Yeah, and really until the fourth quarter of that game, neither one of those teams, Florida State or Georgia, shot particularly too well at all. I mean, it was 35-30, I think, at halftime, and I think maybe each team scored maybe 12 in the third quarter, and then Georgia just kind of blew it open, but neither one of them was a real good shooting team, so Iowa should have almost, I don't want to say a cakewalk, but it shouldn't be close.
I'd like to agree with you, but I think it's human to say, hey, let's not forget what happened a year ago. So
yep. And the way that Georgia played their zone, they left basically the middle of the lane wide open. So if they had Clark probe in that middle of that zone, or even Zanano kind of just underneath the free throw line, it's going to be easy twos every single time, because when Florida State did that, their bigs just couldn't shoot. But it was just, almost wide open layups.
Yeah. And by the way, to our caller, somebody just tried to call in. I had you on hold. If you call in while somebody else is on the line, we've got two lines now. I'm going to put you on hold, so don't hang up. All right? You're just on hold. You're not going to hear anything, but just hang on the line. So you're free to, the caller that just called a minute ago and hung up, call back, and we'll get you on as soon as we get to you. So, yeah, and bottom line is, Zach, I said it several times, I know you're just jumping on with us. Bob makes a good point in the chat. Great teams, good teams take care of business, but great teams dominate teams that are overmatched, and that's Iowa has done that more this year than they did last year. I think Iowa's a much better team this year. I think they're more balanced. They've got better weapons. They're obviously older. They've been old for a while, but yeah, they did all you could expect them to do today.
Yep, they did what a 2 or 1 seed should do, is get up early, keep it up, and then fourth quarter, I know the starters played a couple minutes, and then basically it was the bench. Get the girls out, especially after that second intentional foul. I thought Clark was going to be going out of the game. I was proven wrong, but it's good to get those bench players, especially that experience in this, because you never know. You never know when potentially Taylor McCabe could come off the bench and may have to shoot some threes or stuff like that. So you get up 40, and it's pretty easy to tell your starters, okay, time to sit.
Yeah, I agree. And you brought up hold on just a second, Zach. Let me see if I can get this. I was just going to mention real quick as it relates to Taylor McCabe. I have confidence. I mean, I've seen enough of her from behind the arc that if she needed to come in and make a couple threes, she could do that. And
yeah, she reminds me of Melissa Dixon from the mid 2010s. If she shoots it literally looks like it's going in every single time.
Yeah, she's got a pure shot. So
yes.
Yeah, I could see if they needed to turn to her. I think Lisa Bluter would prefer not to. I think she's going to be a big part of the rotation next year. I do.
Yes,
because
and I think the key to Sunday is, besides the 5 stars, it's going to be how Hannah Stolke does.
Yeah,
Hannah Stolke was big today.
And let's be honest, she has been kind of the X factor all year.
Yes,
similar to Marshall, she went through a stretch where, she was just okay. I would say it was most of January. Am I getting that wrong?
No.
She was really good in the non-conference. Kind of went through a slump. Once she figured it out in Big Ten play, she's been really good. And I think you're right. She gives them an opportunity to stretch the floor a little bit more than you do with Monica Sonano. And she's just gritty. She's willing to make the tough plays. She's kind of like shouldn't say more athletic. That's unfair. She's kind of like a Nicholas Bear in how she works. She makes the tough plays, and I'm not just throwing Nicholas Bear a bone because he's on the show a couple of days ago. But you know what I mean. She earns her minutes through her effort, through rebounding, through her length, and that's what Bear did.
Yeah, and she just does nothing but hustle. I mean, on some of those games in February, I will get the rebound, it gets Clark, and then all of a sudden you just see this person just streaking down the court.
Yep. And
no one in front of her. It's like, yeah, she's gonna be a good one. So, and Molly was big today as well. If they can get the same game today, they're on to Seattle, and hopefully, I have them in my brackets going to the Final Four. Hoping I'm right, but time will tell. One game at a time.
I can't believe you're saying this, and I'm trying to remember where I have where do I have Iowa going?
I think you had them in the Elite Eight, losing to Stanford.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I know. I had the men losing in the second round, so their loss yesterday did not surprise me. Very much disappointed me. But Zach, you didn't call in yesterday. Do you have any thoughts on the men?
I actually stopped watching in the middle of the first. It was tough. It was tough to watch.
Yeah, it was. You stopped watching the game?
Yeah, it's so many missed shots, and so I was texting friends of mine. I'm like,
did you hear about
just tell me one word: erase the DVR or rewatch. So.
Yeah. Well, in this case, I would probably not watch. Although they came back, they were down 17, came back, cut it to 4, but again, same old story. By the way, did you hear about Iowa State, the men today? They got trounced by Pitt.
I saw, as I was at Carver, I saw the score, and I turned to the person next to me. I'm like, is this true? And they said, oh, yeah, they were down, I think, 22-4 to start the game.
Yeah, 22. No,
so,
22-2. 22-2.
And then was it true that someone else texted me and said that Jack Nungy basically sealed the game for Xavier?
Yes, he did. Huge block in the final seconds would have been the game-winning layup for Kennesaw State. Yep.
Good for him. I'm happy for him.
I'm rooting for Xavier moving forward. I'm rooting for my bracket, and I'm rooting for Xavier.
Yep, and I've seen the comments on Facebook now. Fire Fran. Okay, but hold up.
They're gonna come, and I listen. I don't. People have a right to their opinions. I'm not on that train of Fire Fran. He's not on the hot seat. I made that very clear last night. He is not on the hot seat. Am I frustrated? Yes. Do I think there needs to be some change? Yes. But when someone needs to be fired, or at least when I believe somebody needs to be fired, I'm not afraid to say it. How many times have I said Brian Ferentz needs to be fired? How many times have I said that? How many times have I said Gary Barta needs to be fired? So,
yeah.
Bottom line is I'm frustrated, and they got to figure this out. They got to do work in the portal. That's my only explanation, and that's what the football team has fallen back on. I think the football team needs more on the offensive end. I think some of Fran's issues can be solved in the portal, but I'm wondering if perhaps they need more of a philosophical change, perhaps an assistant coach change. I wonder how long Sherm Dillard is going to stick around. Could that be an opportunity to hire somebody that can help? Those are a lot of thoughts.
Right.
I have no idea the answer to those questions right now, but I do think they're going to have to go to the portal.
Are they going? I mean, I've seen some of the Twitter stuff. Even though I'm not on Twitter, there are portal kids looking at Iowa. Are they in on who's it, AMAC? I think he's transferring again.
I'm not aware of them contacting AMAC. They've contacted a couple of guys, and I saw that somebody was it 247 Sports put in some crystal ball for the Belmont kid that's from Iowa City, Evan Bronze, I believe is his name. I don't know, I don't know I don't know Sean Bach. I don't know, I know 247 and the Iowa 247 people have not always been accurate on crystal balls. I don't subscribe to them. I don't follow crystal balls, but I think it was James earlier today, or was it Doug maybe, sent that to me. So who knows? They're going to get people, no question about it. Right now they only have one scholarship open, but I do think there's a good chance they lose one or two other players, and probably somebody from the backcourt. Chris Murray probably leaves early. It's going to open up some opportunity.
Yeah, and what exactly does I've heard a lot. You talk especially a lot about Brock Harding. What is Owen Freeman bringing? Maybe 6'9", I believe, say he is?
I think probably 6'9", 6'10", maybe. I think probably closer to 6'9". I mean, he gives you he's going to give you toughness, and they're going to need it because Philip Rebrach is moving on. He doesn't have any eligibility left. Obviously, Owen knows how to score. He's good on the glass. Again, he's a little bit undersized to be your traditional post, but that's okay. I think he's probably – I'd love to see him and Rebrach stand back-to-back. I'd be curious who's bigger. I would hope that Owen Freeman maybe has an inch or two on Philip. But, it's just hard as a freshman to come in and be real productive first game out. That's why I think they need to go to the portal at the 5. But maybe he gets, 10 to 15 minutes would be a game, would be a huge success. And then you got a question of what happens to Mulvey, what happens with Ogundele. Those are all fair questions that have yet to be answered.
Right.
But we're in portal season, and now that Iowa's out, announcements could come anytime.
Yeah, hopefully it's not a lot of them, but I have a feeling. I think you're right. I think Chris Murray will probably turn pro, even though he hasn't shown a lot lately that he might be NBA material. But that's just me.
I think he's turning pro. But
great win for the Hawks today. I'll be down there on Sunday, so hopefully it'll be another raucous crowd. Have a great evening, Corey. Thanks for the call.
Thank you, Zach. Appreciate it, sir. All right, a reminder to everybody, if you're on Twitter or Facebook, check out my Twitter account, @FromTheHawkeye on Twitter. That's @FromTheHawkeye on Twitter. You can also follow the Facebook page, From the Hawkeye of the Storm, on Facebook. And if you want to donate to the channel, do so by means of the description. The links in the description below: PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, all available. Credit card by means of PayPal. It's much appreciated. You can also donate by means of Super Chat. And I want to take a moment. Again, I talked about them earlier, and they're sponsoring our call-in line, our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. But thank you to Iowa Smokehouse. They're offering some great products, great tasting products, better quality than what you're going to get in your local store. Although you can find Iowa Smokehouse in some of your local grocery stores. Again, visit iowasmokehouse.com for the best quality snacks for game day. And again, if you use that code Hawkeye, you'll get 15% off your order. Tasting is believing with the boys down at Iowa Smokehouse. We appreciate them. Please show your appreciation by visiting Iowa Smokehouse and putting your order in today. Get it before the Final Four. All right, let's move to our next caller. Thank you for calling our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Who's on the line?
This is Kevin.
Hey, Kevin.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
The Iowa Hawkeye women are a lot of fun to watch. They're a really good team. And I think Lisa Bruder is one of the best coaches, not in the Big Ten, but in the country, that she doesn't get very much credit for. But I'll be definitely watching them Sunday afternoon. And I have to say one thing. I agree with you 100% about Gary Barta and Brian Ferentz. But anyway, that's for a different day.
Hey, I'm always open to hearing your other people's perspective on those two individuals. So I appreciate you letting me know that, Kevin.
Yeah, and I love your show. And will you be on after the game on Sunday?
You know I will.
Okay, I'll listen to you. Thank you much.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.
Appreciate it, Kevin. Appreciated Kevin calling our Iowa Smokehouse call line. Always a joy. And let's move to our next Iowa Smokehouse caller, Mr. Doug. Doug.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Well, literally, I'm not even joking. I went on YouTube about 3 minutes ago, and you mentioned my name. So about the transfer, I'm not even joking. I wasn't even on there, and I'm like, I'm gonna hit on Corey's thing. I know I'm a women's basketball person, and then you talk because I've been telling everyone I'm not going to talk about transfers, and then I've been talking about transfers.
Can I get you? What's it going to take to get you to get into the Iowa women's game this month?
I'll watch the game on Sunday.
Okay. And if you're going to watch Sunday, if they get to the Sweet 16 moving on, you'll watch those games, right?
Yeah.
Which means you're going to watch our show, right?
Yes.
With some Iowa Smokehouse to your right?
Yes. I actually did pick some up today when I was at the Fresh Dollar here in Nevada. So I picked some up. So no, I listened to Trent Condon and Miller's show this afternoon. They had I want to get Hawkeye Nation guy or Tom Caker, and he talked about Evan. Evan's not going to be a scholarship player. He's going to be a preferred, like Nimmers, he'll be a preferred walk on.
He isn't committed here.
That's what he. Well, that's what the
247. Am I wrong on that? Evan Braun isn't committed to Iowa, correct? Am I missing something?
No, that's what I was just repeating what because it sounds like he wants out and move home. And so
he was okay. Here's my first reaction when you sent that to me.
No, I don't know anything. I'm just listening to the guy that was on the Condon and Miller show.
But when you sent me that this morning, and for people, for some context here, Doug commented on a From the Hawkeye of the Storm post on Facebook and basically said, hey, 247 Sports is predicting that Evan Braun's heads to Iowa. That's fine. That might be the case. I have no connections to Evan Braun's.
Yeah.
But he has been semi-productive at Belmont.
Yeah. About 6 rebounds.
I know. So that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, Belmont's a good program. They weren't great this year, didn't make the tournament. What was their final record? Do you know?
I have no. I think it was 8th or 9th in the Valley. I looked at it yesterday.
Well, they were that far down in the Valley, really.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Valley's not the whole Ohio Valley. They switched conferences. And I think that's.
Yeah, I know. But the Ohio Valley, I mean, the Ohio Valley is not bad or hasn't been bad.
Mm-hmm. I think Missouri State struggled this year the one that Prome's at.
Okay, let's make a correction here. They finished 3rd in the Missouri Valley.
Belmont.
Okay. Belmont finished 3rd in the Missouri Valley. They were 14-6. And to put this in perspective, this Evan Braun's guy that we're talking about was their leading rebounder. All right. 5 boards a game. And he also scored 7 points a game and played 21 minutes. That's not like, I mean, it's hard to translate that over, Doug, like to say, okay, it's apples to Big Ten basketball, but to Big Ten men's basketball.
Josh didn't do anything.
What's that?
Josh didn't do anything this half the year. There was no production on Gundele or Riley didn't do any production.
No, and I don't know that Braun's is going to be the answer as a starter. He is Evan Braun's, who's playing the 5 at Belmont, is listed at 6'9".
Mm-hmm.
So if he comes here, like I'm guessing he's going to play, whether he's a walk-on or not. Now you say he's a walk-on or he's going to be a walk-on. I know you're repeating what you heard.
Yep, on 1460 earlier today on the Miller Condon Miller show. I wanted to tell you that his podcast is like 1/10 your podcast. So Trent Condon's. So I always go to you first.
Okay, well I've never watched his podcast.
That's probably the reason why yours is a lot better. He only has like 500 views on his.
I don't know Trent, but he's a radio guy. I know he's a radio guy down in Des Moines. But no, I mean Evan Braun's, like I said, he's been productive, but he was a junior, so he's going to be a senior next year.
COVID year.
Well, okay, so he's got 2 years, is what you're telling me.
Yep. I don't know anything. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for putting another guy out there. I'm sorry.
You probably remember this. I don't know how much you watched. Did you watch football stuff, like our football stuff with Don Patterson? And
it was very redundant sometimes. Yes.
Okay. All right, that's fine. But I think you probably remember when the season ended. Like everybody's like, "Well, what are we going to talk about now?" I had more fun talking about the portal and recruiting after the season was over. I'm kind of like, I'm already getting into that mode. Like, I'm mad. I'm still upset that Iowa lost yesterday, but I'm also like, okay, now Fran and the staff can focus on the transfer portal. And as sucky as it is that they lost yesterday, they got an opportunity to do some damage out there. So I'm fine with talking about the portal. And for people who are wondering, Evan Bronze, yes, he played in 2021, the 2021 season, which of course would give him the COVID year. That was a free year. He's played 2 years since, so he would have 2 years remaining if I'm seeing this correctly. And I mean, if he comes here, I just have a hard time seeing a guy. That's a pretty good production at a good league to come here and just say, well, I'm going to be a walk-on, unless he's just really missing home.
Well, you remember they gave CJ was a preferred walk-on, and then they got a couple transfers, and Fredericks, because he was going to walk. I mean, I don't think it was ever. Right now, they just don't have a scholarship, but it sounds like the kid wants to come to.
So I don't. Again, you're giving me a report from whatever was said on the radio. I don't know what was said, but perhaps he comes here as a walk-on initially until they're guaranteed he'll be on. My guess is if he comes here, I guess what I'll say, Doug, I don't know anything more about him. My guess is if Evan Bronze comes here next year, he'll be on scholarship. That's what I would say.
And the other thing was a lot of people forget about Nimmers. The kid from Rock Island. Yep. A lot of people thought he was better than Brock Harding. I kept on hearing Brock Harding was not even 1/10 the guard that Nimmers was. And so, I mean, if we're offering Brock Harding a scholarship and people think that Nimmers is a lot better, I'm not saying they're point guard to point guard, but different skill set, but that means he's probably pretty good. I mean, even though he redshirted this year, I mean, Illinois wasn't on offer him, but Illinois was starting to come interested. That's the reason why we gave him the preferred walk-on. I know he only had Eastern Illinois, but the last time a guy only had Eastern Illinois, that was Chris and Keegan, and it turned out pretty well for them. I'm just saying, don't sleep on Nimmers.
Here's my question. Back to Bronze just for a second. I know this is a women's show. We've turned into a men's show. That's fine.
I'm sorry. You just mentioned my name.
I've been on over an hour. We still have 70 people watching, so maybe they're enjoying it. But the Evan Bronze, like, you look at him. I haven't watched tape of him yet. But he looks the part of a guy who would come in and potentially replace Philip Rebracha. But I'm not saying he's going to replace production, but he's 6'9". He obviously plays a physical brand. He's undersized for his position. He's playing at the same level Philip Rebracha played at before he came to Iowa. Maybe not with the level of production quite to the level of production, but good production.
And again, we could go. I can see us go multiple transfers. I mean, we could get two bigs.
They will go. Well, it depends on what. I think if they go, well, especially if they get Bronze, I don't think they're going to stop at Bronze. Yeah. Like, I don't think the answer. They needed the big this year with Rebracha, Doug, and they're losing Rebracha.
Well, and things with him is different than some of the other players. I would say he's his home. He's friends with Patrick. They're only a year apart. So I think they're trying. I think it's to help Patrick and some of his issues to bring a friend into the program. I've heard again. I don't want to give too many rumors, but obviously they went to school together, and I was told friends pretty close to the kid, Evan, and obviously you're going to be close to your kids' teammates and stuff. So, again, I haven't seen anything official, just the 247 put the 100% thing out. And then today, Miller and Condon, the guy that was on there, said that it really looks like Evan's coming here.
By the way, I don't want to perceive like I'm ripping anybody because I've never watched this podcast you're talking about, but Tacken says Trent has a great podcast. So
okay,
he's defending Trent. That's fine. I'm all for it.
I think I was just trying to boast you up. I watched Trent. I listened to of the KXNO shows. There's a couple other ones I'd rather watch than his or listen to, but Trent's okay. He does an instant reaction. He doesn't have callers or anything. But yeah, Trent. Sorry, Trent Condon. I was just trying to raise my boy Corey up.
And by the way, this question on the screen, I don't have answered as far as other teams involved with Evan Bronze because, frankly, I don't know that there are other teams involved with Evan Bronze. Like I said, his numbers aren't bad, and he played at a good program in a good conference. So, I've not seen any reports as far as other schools making contact. Heck, I haven't even seen a confirmed report that Iowa's made contact. But if he wants to be home, My guess is that he would be looking at Iowa if he could get there, or, hey, can I get a spot at UNI, Drake, maybe down the road somewhere in Illinois? I don't know. But obviously Drake and UNI would probably be on the list, I would think, but that's also transferring within the conference.
Yeah, again, I'm sorry to the people out there. Oh, I just hearing something, wanted to show Corey that, hey, this guy has 100% on 247. Don't know what that even means. And like you said, most of the time when they do their crystal balls, they're way off. That's the reason I don't do it for football, because football is a lot even worse than basketball. So, but
maybe I'll try to do some, I'll try to see what I can, if I can find anything out. I'd love to start talking about that as, topics of conversation. I think it's great.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think we have to have a big man. Like, nothing's happened yet. Chris hasn't announced that he's going pro. A lot of things haven't happened yet, but they will. We're smart enough as fans to know that.
And there's no way they just stash a Gundelay and Mulvey on the bench.
Yeah.
Nor should they. Like, I'm not for pulling a guy's scholarship, but you basically you may have to just tell a guy, look, I'm not saying either one of them specifically, but Doug, I would just probably say, you're not going to play. Like,
well, that's what they did.
We have an obligation to you, but you're not going to play.
Well, they didn't even do that with Joe T. They said, Joe T, you're not getting 30 minutes a game. And
he was actually playing. These guys aren't even seeing the floor.
Yeah, that's my point. Like, if Freddie Strap tells them, hey, you're not probably in our rotation next year, why would you stay? Why would you hold the school hostage with that scholarship? There was some movie in the 70s about that.
Hey, they're competitors, so they play. Like, I would think that either one of those guys, if they decide, hey, I don't have a future here, they'll go somewhere else, even if it's a level down.
Going back to point guard, though, what if DeSante or Aaron both hear that it's an open competition, or Brock could have, like, there's no guarantee. There shouldn't be a guarantee for any of the three.
There shouldn't be a guarantee. I still wonder how much Brock's going to give you in year one. But I think one of those guys will leave. And like I said, I was not. Did you listen to DeSante's response to Tom Cakert's question? Did you ever hear that?
You showed it yesterday, didn't you? Or
I just paraphrased what he said, but go back and listen to that. I think Tom uploaded it to their YouTube channel. Go back and listen to what he said. He didn't say, yes, I'm thinking about transferring, but you know what? You try to read in between the lines, and it just made me a little bit unsettled to hear him say, right now I'm focused on Iowa. It's like, okay, if you're completely bought in, say you're completely bought in. I'm not going anywhere. Like Tony Perkins, maybe Tony will up and transfer tomorrow. I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. But after the game yesterday, he said, hey, I want to get better. I want to be a better Hawkeye. See, those are the things that make you think. That's what he, to each his own. But DeSante Bowen's response to the media didn't exactly leave me real certain. I'll say that.
Well, again, I hope that a lot of these guys stay. Again, I don't want players that are just sitting on the bench. That doesn't help them or us unless you are developing them. So, I mean, at some point we do have to play Josh or Riley, or we have to move on.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. Again, just wanted to hop on when you said my name.
Thank you, Doug.
But yeah, I don't know anything about Evan, and sorry for talking down to Trent Condon.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate Doug calling in. And Jeffrey wants to know, when am I coming to Ohio to talk Buckeye football and basketball? You can barely taste the vinyl chloride, I promise. Jeffrey, appreciate you being here, sir. And I think you're one of our Mark Rogers holdovers that's found the podcast. So I appreciate you being here, sir, and being a part of this. Brandon says, I have some Iowa Smokehouse snack bites with some cheese curds and a nice adult beverage. Boy, that sounds good. Get yourself some Iowa Smokehouse products today, and maybe some beer as well. Nice, wash it down with some beer. They got some good products to go with some beers. Just contact Iowa Smokehouse. They'll help you out. Gary says, what will happen to the tickets that the teams got beat today? Hate to see empty seats with fans wanting to go. I don't know how many Florida State fans came up for the trip, but I'm guessing it's not very many, Gary. My guess is most of those are Hawkeye fans. There may be some that show up on the StubHub market, and I'm sure those Florida State fans are happy to sell because there's going to be Hawkeye fans that are willing to buy. So I would suggest, if you're interested, going over to StubHub and looking for tickets. Brandon says, got back from a nice win versus C-Log. It's much harder versus Georgia. That's a tough physical I don't know what that word is. Defensive team that will hit shots from multiple people, more matchup zone defense. Best sec Best of the SEC. Okay, maybe that's what he's saying. Yeah, I from what I saw, they're obviously better than Southeastern Louisiana. I wasn't blown away by them, but Iowa will have to play as well, if not better, today. And they'll have to get more production. I think balanced production will help them as this tournament goes on. Taffy Cat, I got my smokehouse, my Iowa smokehouse at Hy-Vee in Mankato. Good for you, Taffy Cat. Appreciate you being here as well. All right, folks, final call on the phone lines, and we'll wrap this thing up. Appreciate everybody being here. As always, Iowa defeating Southeastern Louisiana 95-43 in the NCAA tournament. First round of the tournament down in Iowa City. They'll play in the second round against Georgia down in Iowa City on Sunday for a showdown on ABC, National Spotlight once again for the Iowa women. And, of course, I'll have post-game coverage for you right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Be sure to donate if you can, please. It helps. Become a premium subscriber by clicking the join button and tell others about the show. And don't forget, the most important thing here, support our sponsors and use that code Hawkeye when checking out at iowasmokehouse.com. Appreciate everybody being here, folks, and all of our Iowa Smokehouse callers. We will talk to you on Sunday.